Hi, everybody, and welcome again to the Spartan Sports Report for this week. Sam and I are happy to have you join us here on TV3. Final game of the football season, regular season, Sam, occurred Friday night in Batesville. The Spartans on the road for their last ball game. The kids tried hard, but like so many games this year, fumbles.
Fumbles were the name of the game for the
Yes.
Spartans, unfortunately. And that turned into some Bulldog scores, but a bright spot. And I want to bring up the bright spot. Spartans did get the ball on an interception, and with 3.1 seconds to play in the second period, when Batesville had their first string in there, we were able to score, and it had been 9 quarters since we had scored.
Right.
And I think it was important that they do that and not be shut out for the third game in a row.
Batesville's a good ball club. They won the 3A championship, didn't they?
Right, for the Eastern Indiana Conference, and their only loss all season was to East Central, and East Central's a very good football team. So Batesville really a good team year in and year out, and especially on their home field.
Yes, they're tough, but our kids again never gave up. But the bugaboo turnovers that they've just had about every ball game, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and I know that we as spectators and fans hope that would turn around. You know that the coaching staff really,
sure,
and that's something that I think that they probably didn't just harp on all the time, because sometimes when you do, that only makes it worse. But you know, the kids know, and it was in the back of their mind, and they don't want to turn it over. It just happens, and sometimes it's good defense that causes that.
Regular season, as we said, is over, so it's postseason tournament play begins this week all around Indiana, and the Spartans will be hosting who?
Pendleton Heights. The Arabians come galloping into town, and they come in at 3-6. I think that this is a winnable game, and you have to like our chances since it is at home at Spartan Field, and you know, I know they'd like to have a big crowd out there and plenty of seats available. So,
and I think the weather looks good. Newcastle, Greenfield Central, Yorktown are the three teams that Pendleton Heights won over. We were talking before the show that they have an offensive average of 15, like the Spartans are 13. Defensive average 37. The Spartans around 36, 37 long in that. So they're comparable in scoring ability and defensive ability.
They are. It could be anybody's ball game. And now everybody starts 0-0. So
that's right.
You know, the old cliches, we've said it for years, you throw the records out the window and everybody starts over again.
It was interesting. Their coach is in his 40th year.
Wow.
Adam Kelly's in his 4th year, so
little seniority there.
Just a little bit of difference there in things, but I'm sure the Pendleton Heights coach has changed with the times, and because they have a decent team all the time.
He must be doing something right to still be coaching after 40 years. So.
Evidently, to have the job 40 years, he must be doing okay. But we wish the kids the best of luck, and especially the senior boys. We want them to continue on. The sectionals, this is the first round. They run through November 6th, I believe. And then on Saturday the 13th will be the regionals. The following week will be the semis. And then there are 6 classes of football in Indiana. So the finals will be 3 on Friday the 27th of November, and the other 3 will be on Saturday the 28th, and that's the weekend of Thanksgiving.
And that's all played at Lucas Oil Stadium. So those kids that make it there, that's got to be a big thrill for them to get to play inside of that. The upper classes, I know 6A, they all have a bye this week, and I'm thinking maybe 5A does too, because there's much fewer teams I know in 6A, and if my memory serves me correctly, I think maybe 5A is the same way. So
the classes are based on school enrollment, aren't they? Isn't that how they?
They are based on school enrollment, but I know the 6A is kind of the super class, and there aren't a lot of teams in that.
Yeah, there are like 5,000 kids in their school.
Yeah, when you think about Ben Davis and Carmel and maybe North Central and some of the teams from up north, Penn and some of the traditional powers are in that top class.
Yeah, should be an interesting state tournament.
Well, I think so.
I think it'll be good.
And as I said, anything can happen Friday night for the Spartans, and they could go on into the next round, and they've done it. They've done it before and made it to the second round and won after the first game. And I think this is the third year in a row, Fran, that we get to host the opening game, which is certainly to our advantage.
Yeah, and I think and when they had the blind draw, the second team out is the host team, I believe is how it works. So,
and I believe so, and I think that next week, whoever is in the bottom bracket, as long as the team that they're playing didn't host, say that both teams had hosted, the one that's in the bottom of the bracket would host again.
Okay. Well, I hope the Spartans have that problem to figure out.
I hope so, too. I hope
Pendleton Heights and the Spartans, 7 o'clock is kickoff time.
We'll be on there on KMix 106.9 at 6:45 with the pregame show, Dave Pollard and I. And we'd surely like to see a big crowd out there.
I hope so.
People can bring their radios along or their smart devices and listen to us.
And as I mentioned, the weather looks good, I think.
Yeah, and for the most part, well, we had the lightning the one time, and the game was postponed, and we had a couple games where there was some rain, but hasn't been extremely cold. It was a little cool the other night, but down at Batesville, but it is mid-October, and but all in all, the weather it's been pretty conducive to football.
Yes,
I guess
it has. Still on football, the middle school had a good season this year. Those young guys had an 8-1 record. So I'm sure that's got to be pleasing to the coaches at CHS.
You would think so, and you got to look at that as their feeder system. And Coach Kelly and the rest of them, I'm sure, have been to see some of those kids play, and are looking forward to getting them on the varsity level, junior varsity and varsity level next year.
Yes.
But it's good that there's that they had that 8-1 record, and that there's that much interest in the lower grades that that they can have seasons like that.
Yeah, sure. The girls basketball, we had Michael Thompson on our show last week. Michael said this week they start official practices, getting ready for the season, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, I believe from this taping of this show, I think it's 17 days until the girls open up over at New Pal, and we're looking forward to that. I had seen one of the players, Amanda Cobb, yesterday, and she's a senior, and she's certainly looking forward to this season. And tryouts are this week, spring or fall break week, which is a little different. They've moved the schedule up a week on the girls, and it's a little bit of a hardship for the girls and for the coaching staff because a lot of people are taking off and going on vacation. But if they want to play, they'll be there, and I think that. Coach Thompson will have them ready. He talked last week. It'll be a young team, but he does have a few veterans, and I think that as the season comes along, that the girls will be playing pretty well.
I think so.
Under Coach Thompson's leadership.
As you mentioned, they have 17 days from our show where we're taping up. So that means they've got, I think, 10 authorized practices, he said. So that'd be this week and next week, and then they open on Thursday the 5th. Yes. And home
on the 7th.
On the 7th to Cardinal Ritter. So
both pretty good teams that we're playing, and then the next week we have Mount Vernon, and we all know how good they play. So tough schedule that the girls play.
It is a tough schedule, but coaches like that because they said it prepares them for the postseason.
It does, and if you want to be the best, you need to play the best.
Sure. I mean, if you play weak teams all season long, you really don't learn much, and get better or anything. At junior high level, they'll be starting basketball. Middle school, actually. I call it junior high from...
you and I went to junior high.
I was junior high, right. And they're having tryouts next week for the 4 boys and 4 girls teams. And you might explain that. They have
in each grade, 7th and 8th grade, they have the red team and the white team. And the white team sometimes is more the developmental team. But we've had a lot of great players that went on to play varsity ball that played on the white team.
Sure, yes.
But sometimes over the years you've seen that the red team maybe have, at this level, at that age, the more skilled players. But you never know when a kid's going to grow.
Absolutely.
And how they may develop. So it gives them a good opportunity to have 2 squads and you know, they travel all over just like the varsity does, and play all the surrounding communities and a lot of what would be future conference opponents for them once they get to high school.
Yes, and then the 7th grade has the same thing. They have 2 teams, and the girls too.
Right.
End up. So that's a lot of youngsters playing basketball.
It certainly is, and Coach Thompson talks about over the years. I've been to several of his year-end banquets. And he'll talk about, you know, we started out with back in 7th grade and we had 40 girls playing, and now we're down to these 3 seniors that we're honoring at the banquet.
Yes.
But he always talks about the perseverance of those kids, and some of them maybe might have thought that they would be cut, but they just kept coming back. And, And it's just kind of that never give up attitude that several of the kids, and it'd be on the boys' team too, that they just have to stick with it.
Yeah, I like the perseverance that these young athletes show, and of course, they're students first.
Sure.
Student athletes, they're called, so that means they got to keep up their studies. There's certain rules. You have to meet a certain grade level, I believe.
Grade point average.
Yeah.
And you'll see the kids on the bus with their books many times, that especially, you know, road games, may leave right after school and not get home till 11 o'clock at night. So
good time to do your homework and everything. Sort of bad news from Columbus over last week when the boys soccer team went to play in the regional. They lost to Floyd Central, 2-2 at the end of regulation play, and they went into overtime, and Floyd Central kind of outscored them. And
they did, but you know, you got to think that Coach Bottomley and the boys maybe, I don't want to say overachieved, but just to be in that regional game down in Columbus, hats off to them, because you know, they went to Richmond and won that sectional, defeated the home team, and understand upset them pretty much emotionally, the Richmond team, but just to come away with that win, and then to come back and win the championship
those
game.
Those were both overtime games in Richmond, and then they go to Columbus and play another overtime game. But those young guys had 14 wins. They lost 5 and tied 1. So that's an excellent record.
Pretty good record with what I don't know that you would have considered a rebuilding year, but they'd lost a lot of good players from the year before.
Yeah, Coach Bottomley was quick to tell us, you know, that they had a lot of positions to fill this year, and those kids stepped up. But he and John Reynolds do a good job.
Oh, they certainly do. They've done a great job with it.
The volleyball state tournament is getting underway this week. The Lady Spartans drew a bye, and so they will be idle until Saturday afternoon at 12:30. They'll be meeting Mount Vernon of Fortville. People keep saying, why do you keep saying Fortville? I said, because there are 2 Mount Vernons in Indiana. So
Mount Vernon Posey and Mount Vernon Fortville.
But anyway, they play at 12:30, and Newcastle is hosting the volleyball sectional. So we wish those girls the best of luck, too.
Oh, yeah. Coach Pfeiffer, we had her in here, and, you know, her enthusiasm, and she does a nice job with those girls. So we wish them the best.
Hope they do well.
You know, we were talking about girls basketball and girls volleyball now, that since they moved the basketball schedule up a week, it becomes a real conflict between the volleyball team and the basketball team as far as scheduling and their games, because you know, if the girls could win a sectional and go on and play in a regional, that would be overlapping into the actual start of the basketball season, which I see as a real problem, and I don't. There's got to be a way to correct that.
I hope they can get it straightened out, because, as you say, it's a real problem. There's a Babe Ruth mushball tournament, which I don't know what that is. I don't know if you know what that is or not.
No, I don't. I think of mush. I think of breakfast cereal.
It's the Babe Ruth Complex, and that'll be this Saturday. It costs $125 a team. I really don't know. And I've got some phone numbers here if folks would like to call and find out more about it. 265-5117, 265-7217, and 309-3415. So if you're interested in mush ball, why, that's a place to go. And there's a interesting thing coming up at Roberts Park. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's mixed league volleyball, and they're going to play that on Wednesday nights, Fran. Cost is just $125 per team. Sign-ups are October 1st through the 30th, so the sign-ups are underway right now.
Sure.
Games will start December the 2nd. Sponsored by the Parks and Recreation Department, and a lot of people like to play volleyball well into their middle age, or up into their 30s and early 40s. I know of a lot of people over the years that have done that. So you can call the Parks Department at 825-5244 and get more information. But that registration goes through October the 30th, and says here games start December 2nd. That's right after Thanksgiving. Might be a good time to go out and play some volleyball and get rid of some of that Thanksgiving turkey. So some weight to keep you slim and trim during the winter months.
They have a lot of good programs going on at the park. I know earlier we had Daryl Drew, who heads up the recreation department at the park, and they really do a lot of things.
Well, we're just so blessed to have the facilities that the city has, and at the park and down at the Babe Ruth Field. And I know that there's talk and wanting to move that and improve that facility, but the one that we have is maintained very well. It's just unfortunate that it floods, but it's been used by the youth and adults alike for years and years. So we do have a lot of opportunity for people that maybe the young people that aren't involved in high school sports to play community sports, and then as adults for them to be able to play.
Right. It's something that we can be proud of here in town, and we wish everybody that is interested in that will take advantage of it.
Certainly.
Everything. A couple of professional football games played Sunday. Cincinnati did pretty well.
Cincinnati remains undefeated, and a lot of Bengals fans are coming out of the woodwork now. And I know they've always been there, but they have something to crow about.
That's right.
For years and years,
they're just knocking off their opponents one by one here, and it's great to have. Great to have a team like that.
Yeah, it is.
So
went to Buffalo and defeated them yesterday. Unfortunately, Fran, those of us that are Colts fans,
we don't have.
I guess the game was a lot closer, and those nighttime games, I just can't stay up and watch them. I have to get up and go to work the next morning. So I really don't like it when the Colts play on Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night, because I don't have the opportunity to watch or listen. Being a radio guy, I just like listening to them on the radio.
Absolutely, I know what you mean. But I don't know what the problem is up there. Seems that Luck is back okay. His passing seemed to be doing well. So I don't know what the problem is. I can't.
Well, they had that one play in the third quarter where they lined up all over on one side.
Seemed to be controversial from what people are saying, and I think that led to a New England touchdown, I believe.
It's just I just couldn't believe watching that, and I only saw it on the replay. But it's and I had seen that done something similar to that a few years ago with former football coach we had here at Connersville had lined everybody up over onto one side, but not nearly as far away from the center and the quarterback as what we saw. I mean. There was just nobody there to protect them. I didn't understand.
I don't know because it didn't seem like New England responded to move everybody over on that side. I don't know what the aim was. I don't know.
Well, nonetheless, Colts lose by a touchdown.
Lose by a touchdown, right?
Which is still closer than many of us had anticipated, because I thought New England would come in for bear and really put it on them. So the Colts were able to play with them for the most part.
With the Deflategate thing, that sort of kept everything stirred up, and you really didn't know what to expect. I don't think. But
if they want to see the Patriots again, they're going to have to turn this season around to be able to see them in the postseason.
Yeah, they've lost 3 now, and very many more, and you're not going to be around at the end of the season.
That's right. Was good to see Andrew Luck back, although
yes,
Hasselbach did a great job for him, I thought, while he was off.
He did. And the last game he came in, I think he was not feeling well that week, and went in there and won a ball game for him a week ago. So
they talk about the older guys coming and playing. Of course, he was only about 40, but in relative terms for football,
that's quite an age for a professional football player. Peyton Manning's having a little bit of problems. They're winning, but they keep saying that he hasn't got the arm that he had at one time.
And that's to be expected, but...
Yes, I heard one guy say that about the maximum of his passes are about 20 yards. They said as far as, throwing 150 yards, he can't do that anymore. So,
but still a brilliant mind. And,
oh, gosh.
And call the plays and know how to get somebody,
12th man on the field, really, is what he amounts to. I mean, the guy manages the team and everything.
I believe they're the Broncos and the Bengals are the only 2 undefeated teams right now. So
right. I think Cincinnati has a bye this week, and I'm not sure who the Colts have scheduled.
Off the top of my head, I saw it, but I don't recall at this time.
I can't remember.
A little bit of college football from Saturday. The Indiana Hoosiers, I watched most of that game, and Hoosiers were putting a lot of points on the scoreboard early. Rutgers would come back, but then it looked like in the second half, wife and I, we were going to eat, and I had it on in the car, and early in the fourth quarter, and the Hoosiers were up 52 to 23. I said, I think they're playing very well, and my wife said, not so fast, she's seen this happen before, and sure enough, we got to the restaurant and they had it on the TV, and I'm watching it, and Rutgers came back and defeated the Hoosiers 55-52 after trailing 52-23 in the fourth quarter. It's just unbelievable.
It really was. I was listening to it, and I just I couldn't believe some of what was going wrong and everything. But
I would have liked to had it on the radio to hear what Don Fisher, his comments on that.
Yeah, he was kind of beside himself. I was listening to Don, and he couldn't believe it either, I don't think.
He's seen a lot of football over the years.
Yes, he has.
One of the premier broadcasters, I think.
Absolutely. And this is one of the better seasons for him, because IU usually struggles quite a bit in football. But they got off to a good start.
They did.
They won 4 ball games, I believe, didn't they, before?
Still need to win a couple more to become bowl eligible. Yeah, I think they've lost 3 now. But, they gave Ohio State everything that they
certainly
wanted.
Did.
And should have won the other day against the Scarlet Knights, but weren't able to pull off.
Wasn't in the works.
A couple of bad throws and interceptions, and kind of turned that game around. I thought, why is he throwing the ball? Keep it on, eat up some clock here.
Yeah, that's right. You wonder sometimes what these decisions by coaches really are. I'm not sure if they're a single decision, or is it coaching by committee with the defensive and offensive guys in there on making the decisions, or do you think it's just the head coach himself?
I think it's head coach.
Head coach makes them.
Probably, and sometimes the quarterback may go away from what the coach is telling them too. And Sudfeld had been throwing the ball very well the other day. It was just a couple of inopportune interceptions toward the end of the game.
I was real impressed. Purdue's struggling, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and for a couple of years now, and that's very surprising to me because over the year they've had a lot of tradition and have really had some pretty good teams.
Yes, they have. They've got some good players, and I don't know what the problem is up there.
I don't know. They've only won one game.
The guys, they were a powerhouse for years, weren't there? In football, and dominated IU every year, it seemed like, and everything. But and the other big school in Indiana, Notre Dame, we're doing okay.
Yeah. Doing all right, as they always do.
Yes.
They're always able to recruit the best.
They seem to, yeah. They put on a good product on the field.
But you look at their schedule too. They play the best. So.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Right.
A lot of Irish fans here in Southeast Indiana. And,
right. Cincinnati's doing well in football. Pretty well. They lost their most recent ball game, but overall they put on a pretty good ball game, a ball team on the floor, on the field.
A lot of opportunity for people right here where we live because they're you can go see a lot of games. You can watch. You can have your favorite, and with so many Division I player or Division I schools right here in the tri-state area where we are. And of course, just over 30 miles away from us, over at Miami. And
absolutely,
Miami has struggled the last few years, but you know they call that the cradle of coaches over there. There's been some great coaches come out of there.
Yes, they have. Some guys that have done really, really well. IU basketball, what do you think this year?
Well, I think that they better play better, and I think they have. I think they have the players to make that happen.
Potential.
I like Coach Crean. A lot of people have been down on him, but I like his positive attitude. I think that and his energy. He's had some unfortunate things happen off the floor over the last few years, but seems like they're trying to correct those problems. And,
they're trying to straighten the things up. But these young guys just I don't know if they don't understand the importance of and the honor of being on that team or what.
Well, evidently they don't. But
apparently not. But they're trying their best to straighten out the program. Purdue basketball, I think it's going to be a little bit better.
Yeah, and last year I was impressed with them. They had those 2 7-foot boys, and didn't play them at the same time, but when they were in there, they were hard to stop.
Yeah, I was impressed with what the Boilermakers were doing. Cincinnati and Xavier are close by too.
Close by, and as a child, I grew up watching UC basketball. That's where our antenna was pointed, and the Big O. And, and been a lot of great teams come out of there, and Xavier's always a lot of fun to watch. And of course, a lot of us around here became Butler fans about 8 years ago or so.
Wonder why.
And I do like to follow the Bulldogs.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's haven't been for a couple of years, but I'd like to get back up to Hinkle to watch them play. I just love to go to Hinkle Fieldhouse to watch basketball.
It's a great place. I'm old enough to know it was called Butler at one time, but it is a great place, and I'm glad that they didn't, like others downtown Indianapolis did, knock down buildings and put new ones up. I'm glad Butler retained the old field house.
You had the opportunity to call some semi-states from there.
Absolutely.
And,
sure did.
That had to be a lot of fun. I've been up there and when the Spartans have played up there, but never in a tournament game and called a game from there. But wow, to call a semi-state from there.
Yeah, 72 would be Cathedral, and then moved on to the IU Assembly Hall for the finals and everything. But that was quite a thrill. Again, back to football. Pendleton Heights moves into Connorsville Friday night. Sectional round 1. Wish the Spartans the best of luck.
Oh, I think they can do it here this week.
They can beat this team, and the best of luck to Coach and all of his assistants, and to the young men. Thanks for joining Sam and I here on the Spartan Tour Report. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching on TV3.